Good morning, West Ham fans. Love is in the air, every sight and every sound. But is it love for Paulo Fonseca? Yes, everybody, Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Happy Valentine's Day. Not only is it Valentine's Day, it's bin day in the Budden household. Double whammy. Hope you had plenty of pancakes yesterday. People on Twitter were calling me a tosser. I think that's in relation to my flipping skills rather than anything else. But anyway, Ant spoke about it yesterday. Clarence Hughes spoke about it as well. We know there's a number of candidates who are positioning themselves potentially to take over from David Moyes in the summer. Now, a number of them we've spoken about before. We spoke about the Union Sanghalese manager as well as Arne Slot we've spoken about. We spoke about Ruben Amorim. We've actually spoken about Fonseca before, but I thought we'll give you a bit more information about Paulo Fonseca. You know, according to Clarence here, there was two names. One was Fonseca, one was Sebastian Goodlier. But there's no way Sebastian Goodlier is coming to West Ham at all. Carry on in the Qatarian whatever league it is, I don't know. But that being said, or maybe the Qatarians are going to buy West Ham, and because of that, we're going to get conspiracy theory. That's it. We've got it. We've got it. We've solved. We've cracked the enigma. But anyway, I'm going to talk about Paulo Fonseca because he's an unusual character. He's quite an enigmatic figure in football, particularly football management, and going to his management style, his background. I think that's really important. Go through some of the stats and figures as well in terms of his managerial career, and let you come up with your own assumptions. I mean, there's definitely some positives, there's definitely some negatives as well, and I think you're going to get that with every manager, to be honest. And so there'll be people who will be pro Fonseca coming in potentially, and people who will be anti Fonseca coming in. And let me in the comments below. Who do you want to come in? Who is the next manager? Assuming, because there will be a new manager. We've said that several times. It's not a case of Moyes is going to be our manager for the rest of our lives. Who's the next manager for you? Because I'll be really fascinated to know. Let me know in the bottom, in the comments below, please. So let's talk about Fonseca, shall we? Let's start with his. We start him right at the beginning. There he is. There he is. He's already got the flat cap already. He's destined for East London, surely. He was born on March 7th, so it's his birthday in a couple of weeks' time. Happy birthday. And he was born in 1973, and he was actually born in Mozambique. Randomly. His early years were marked by obviously a real passion for football from an early age. Started his career with his hometown club, FC Barrio de Niacompo, and soon moved to Portugal to make his mark, playing for a number of clubs during his time in Portugal, most notably Estrela Amadora, where he actually retired at the age of just 32, but immediately started his coaching career with Estrela's youth academy. After that, went on to manage at several smaller clubs in Portugal. I don't know why I'm saying Portugal, but I'll carry on going. Such as Pinhal Novense, that would do. And the reason why I pinpointed that particular club, not because I can't pronounce his name, but he actually led them to the quarterfinals of Taça de Portugal in 2 successive years, which is phenomenal for a very lower league side in Portugal. He was then, because of that success, the following year, he was appointed to his first job in the professional leagues, really, at Alves in Division 2. And in his first season there, he led them to the 3rd position in the league, just 2 points shy of promotion to the Premier Liga. And then he took his first top flight job, which was Paços de Ferreira. In that role, I mean, he went back there a few times. And we'll show that. We'll go through his sort of his timeline of clubs he's been at. But what was quite interesting about his first stint at Paços de Ferreira is he qualified for the first round, or the playoff round for the Champions League. So in essence, the first stages of the Champions League, which was the first time they ever did it and the last time they've done it in their entire history. So that's quite an accolade, really. And Europe does seem to be a good hunting ground for Paulo, to be honest. His football journey continued in Portugal and ended up taking charge of FC Porto and spells at Braga as well. And then he decided to move away, venture across country borders and manage Shakhtar Donetsk in the Ukraine. And this is where it kick-started his managerial career across Europe, in all honesty. He was a wellish known manager in Portugal, but as soon as he went to Shakhtar Donetsk, he obviously, one of the biggest clubs if not the biggest club in the Ukraine, he actually was there for 3 years and won the double every year. So he had a phenomenal time at Shakhtar Donetsk. But not only that, he guided them to the latter stages of the Champions League, which again, throughout that particular time, he played a number of Serie A sides, particularly Napoli. I think he was one of the Milans as well. And so because they played so well against these Italian sides, it perked up the ears of Serie A clubs in terms of Paulo potentially taking over a vacant job in Serie A. And that's what happened. He then took over the role at Roma. And was there for a couple of years. He led them to a 5th place in Serie A in his first season, as well as semi-finals of the subsequent Europa League. He was there for a couple of years, and now he's currently the manager at Lille. And as you can see by that shirt, his contract runs out at the end of this summer. So that's one of the pluses, particularly for Mr. Sullivan, because it'll be a little bit cheaper to get in. They are doing well this season. They actually spent almost 3 months unbeaten this year, qualified for the knockout stages of the Europa Conference League. They've beaten Monaco. I think they lost to PSG last week, I think, but they've also held against Marseille, Paris Saint-Germain, and they arguably produce and are playing some of the most watchable attacking football in Liga. They've got some fantastic players and they're playing some really good football, really attack-minded football as well. Now, in terms of the position at Lille, I mean, Lille, before he joined, they'd won the Liga. Then the following season, they were in like mid-table obscurity. So they immediately sacked the manager and brought in Fonseca to try and reinvigorate the side and get them back into the top, echelons of Liga. And to be fair, he's sort of done that, really. He led them to 5th place, Europa Conference League during his first season. He set a club record of 22 consecutive home games without defeat, whilst also developing one of the most attractive football teams in France along the way. So that's not too shabby Alonso. And obviously, we're not going to get shabby Alonso. Sorry, Nick. Now, what's really interesting about Fonseca from a managerial perspective is he's shown tactical changes. It's not all one way or the highway. Throughout his career, he's played a number of different formations. His favourite one is the 4-2-3-1. But unlike, I think, the 4-2-3-1 we're akin to, it's a little bit more attack-minded rather than more defensive-minded, if that makes sense. It really is not a double pivot. It's more like a CDM and a attacking, a sort of a central midfielder. It's almost like a 4-1-2-2-1 type formation. But he has been known to play 4-3-3. During his time at Roma, he also played a 3-4-3 formation. And what he did actually was quite interesting at Roma was he took one of the sort of more recognised central defensive midfielders, converted him into almost like a sweeper. And he played the sort of the middle of the three and had a ball playing sort of centre half, really. So, I know there's been calls for maybe Edson Alvarez to play in the centre half. That could work under a Fonseca side potentially because he's done it before. He's got a really interesting philosophy about football, as you can imagine, and something which I think he was asked about his philosophy, and there's plenty of stuff for him. But when he talks about his process, he says, for me, it's never just about the result; it's about the process, what we create, and the way we create it. That is very important for me. I want to create something that allows you to enjoy the game. And to do that, you need to have an attacking way of playing. You have to try and dominate and create more chances than the opposition. I think today people appreciate less the coaches who don't have courage. I want to create something spectacular and something for people to really enjoy. One of his successes, so to speak, was maybe the resurgence of Mkhitaryan in Roma, and he commented on him in, I think it was back a couple of years ago, saying that Fonseca was very similar to Thomas Tuchel. He tries to put players in the best positions to allow them to play their own style of game freely. So there's lots of buzzwords in there that West Ham fans would really love about, particularly the desire for West Ham to play more attacking football. Fonseca does try and do that, and look at some of the players that he's been playing with. It's not necessarily even, he's developed, obviously, with Lille. They have a good academy, so there's obviously youngsters coming in there. He's brought players in as well. At Roma, it wasn't all about the youngsters. He's spearheading his attack was Edin Dzeko, who was well into his 30s at the time, and then Mkhitaryan, Pedro. They didn't have the most youthful squad, and he still made them a strong side. Obviously, he was replaced by Jose Mourinho, another Portuguese manager, and both follow a similar style in terms of being all about the training session. Some managers, I remember Sir Alex famously wouldn't really take sessions. It would be with the coaches. For Fonseca, he's very much on the pitch. And there's a Portuguese guy. Is it Tika? Is it Victor Roque or something like that? It's a style of football management that a lot of Portuguese managers sort of run by. It's himself, Jose Mourinho, Carlos Queiroz, sort of those type of managers. Now, let's talk some numbers, shall we? Because I think that's really important. So, on paper, sounds good. He sounds good, about having courage. He wants people to enjoy football. He wants to enjoy people watching them. He does teach a very bold possession-based game. He likes to control the game. He likes to control the ball. He likes his teams to control the space as well. He doesn't sit back as a manager in terms of his sides. So they would be on the front foot. Particularly his Lille side, they love to draw opponents in. They'll have the ball and they'll try and bait them in, and then hit them on the counter attack quickly. Looking at him, he's got quite an impressive pedigree in terms of, some of the sides he's worked with. He's actually managed on 4 different countries, and so at the Premier League, if he did come, would be his 5th country. But my slight concern is the longevity of a Paulo Fonseca appointment. And the reason for this is this chart. This is all, get rid of the Beer 52. If you want beer52.com/West Ham, by the way. He's, in essence, had 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 appointments. As you can see, with probably the exception of Shakhtar Donetsk and Roma, he hasn't stayed for longer than 100 games. If that, 70 usually. There's plenty of 35 games, 30 games, 41 games. He went back to Pacos de Ferreira a couple of times as well. Not so literally, apart from his time at Shakhtar Donetsk, I think it was 3 years he stayed there. I think similar for Roma as well. 2.5 years, something like that. Lille, his contract runs out in the summer, and there hasn't been, I don't know, in terms of discussions about a new one. So, would we want somebody who's only going to be here for a couple of seasons? Maybe he would stay longer. I don't know, but it's a little bit concerning for me. You can see his win ratios, which isn't too bad. Particularly, I think you look at his time at Shakhtar as well. Obviously, that's going to be dominant. They're the dominant side in Shakhtar in the Ukraine in terms of the side. So you would imagine, but he still delivered. He's delivered three trebles in 3 successive years. 74% win ratio, and 183 goal difference. So in terms of how that's falls out and shakes out in terms of his managerial career. It's 667 games, 53% win ratio, with a goal difference of 447, with 250 of that coming from his time at Shakhtar. So that's one of my concerns is, he hasn't shown that he stays around for long. Maybe he might be finding the right place. I mean, Shakhtar is there for 3 seasons. Nowadays, if you get 3-4 years out of a manager, you've done well, to be perfectly honest now. Football has changed. I mean, this will be Moyes' third and a half year, something like that now. So that seems the merry-go-round. He has worked with a director of football. He does work under that sort of setup. In fact, when he's at Roma, his director of football was Thiago Pinto, who Nobes was. He's one of Noble's not colleagues, but acquaintances, and was one of the names name checked by Noble when he was doing his sort of not sabbatical, but by going around listening and talking to director of footballs. Thiago Pinto was one of them that they were talking to, and as well as I think Paul Mitchell and a couple of others. So he's aware of them. So obviously he could give them a character reference potentially. Yeah, I don't. He excites me from one perspective, in terms of the attacking perspective. I worry about his longevity. But I suppose if you got 3 years out of him, not being funny, that's usually the average. I don't know what the average is, but it must be about 3 seasons at a top end, to be honest. And I think, the fact is we do have an aging squad. He has worked wonders with aging players as well. And he would play an exciting brand of football. By his time at, Shakhtar Donetsk, he had a number of, that was when they were buying lots of big players as well. Lille, he's worked with lots of Jonathan David, who I'd love at West Ham potentially, and players like that. So he has connections in the French league. The Portuguese leagues now we've been looking at as well in terms of, we're looking at Ruben Amorim as well, for example. So I can see, I mean, he's 50 odd now, so he's a good age. But I don't know. I don't know. Apart from his time, I've got his honours actually. Apart from his time at, I mean, we'll look at what he's won, because that's important. Obviously, he did the treble, or the double rather. He did the treble 1 year, but the double 2 years as well. In terms of the Super Cup, he's won the Ukrainian champions 3 times, Ukrainian Cup 3 times. The Super Cup once, Portuguese Cup. I think that's his time at Braga, I think, and the Super Cup as well. But that's it. I mean, he's outside of the Ukraine. Obviously, he's won 2 trophies. He's kept Roma about 4th or 5th. He's kept Lille about 4th or 5th. So, would that be the next, so he has experience of that type of level, which I think is probably the next step for us, is to maintain a sort of top 6 position potentially with all the great players we've got and stuff like that, maybe. Don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'll be fascinated to hear your thoughts. Obviously, people will say, I want anyone apart from Moyes. What if Paulo Fonseca comes in, June the 1st or July the 1st? I don't know when the contracts run out. Obviously, plus sides from Sully, he's he's not going to cost as much in terms of you're not going to have to pay the parent club to take him early. His contract runs out in 2024. It worries me that Lille haven't asked him to have a new contract. So, or there hasn't been any, I don't know if there has been discussions, but, same as we're winding down Moyes' contract, it seems. Are Lille doing the same? Is there a reason why they're doing that? I don't know. Anyway, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys on the Flippity Flop. That was yesterday, Flippity Flop. Anyway, have a lovely Valentine's Day. Remember, love is in the air. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. Much love. Bye-bye.